Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today I'm going to give you 6 reasons why I prefer the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro to the GoPro Hero 13. Alright, disclaimers as we get into this. Number 1, this video is sponsored by DJI. Number 2, DJI does send me some free cameras and free equipment. And number 3, while DJI does not have an affiliate program, if you do purchase through my Amazon links, I will get a small commission actually on either camera you buy. So anyway, but those are my disclaimers there. All right, so why am I making this video? So I've switched to DJI cameras, it's been 2 or 3 years. So for many years, when I first started out this YouTube channel, I used GoPro cameras because it's kind of what everybody used and that's what we all had. However, the frustrating part was that I would have numerous reliability errors when using the GoPro. So I would be out doing my motorcycle reviews and the GoPros would shut down unexpectedly, they would overheat unexpectedly, the files would get corrupted on the memory card. I would just have all sorts of issues that were very frustrating if I put hours into filming a project and going out and doing a ride and then having corrupt footage, or maybe the audio didn't record. That was another problem I used to have with the GoPros. I just got really frustrated, and then I eventually ended up switching to DJI. And since I've switched to DJI, I am totally honest with you, I have not had a single error or malfunction in a couple years that I've been using DJI cameras, and that's really, really impressive. All right, so let's get into this. Reason number 1 that I prefer the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro to the GoPro Hero 13 is going to be the battery life. So I've done some testing with battery life. So let me back up a second. I noticed when I switched to DJI from the GoPros that I was changing batteries much less often. That really makes a difference to me because I don't have to carry as many spare batteries and chargers if I'm out filming all day, and it's just more convenient because I don't have to take the camera off my helmet mount and change a battery and unplug the microphone and do all that kind of stuff. So anyway, what I've done for this test is I did some testing on battery life. So I set both cameras in the same mode, 4K, 30 frames a second, 100% battery charge, and I did some testing there. So what I got was the GoPro, I got about 114 minutes of recording before the camera shut off from the battery going dead, which is better than the old GoPros. I will give them credit. They've improved it from the old GoPros. But the DJI, I got 171 minutes. So that is, I don't know what the percentage difference is, but that's a pretty massive difference in the battery life. So whatever DJI have done with the power consumption of the camera and the increased capacity of the battery, and they have made it even better on the 5 versus the older 4, which I used to use. Really, really impressive. This makes a big difference to my life. Okay, reason number 2 that I prefer the DJI to the GoPro, and I've touched on this in the beginning, is due to reliability and stability. I've never had a single glitch with my DJI Osmo 4, my Osmo 5 Pro, or the other DJI products I use, which is a Mini 4 Pro drone, I think I'm getting the name right, and the Pocket 3 blog camera, which I love that camera, by the way. I've never done a review on that, but I use that all the time. Never had a single stability issue with any of them. Crazy. However, with GoPros, that has not been the case. Now, I will give GoPro credit. In the time I've been using the 13, I haven't had any crashes with it, but I haven't been testing it for that long, so I can't guarantee that. But my experience is based on the 12s, the 11s, the 10s, the 9s, 8s, 7, all the old GoPros, which I had issues with all of them. Okay, reason number 3 I prefer the DJI is to do with the front and back screens. So the screens on the DJI are bigger and brighter, and they're easier to use. Here's why. So on the back screen, the DJI screen takes up the whole back of the camera, whereas the GoPro just kind of uses a portion of the back of the camera. The GoPro is actually a physically larger camera, but the DJI somehow has a larger screen. You really do notice this. Plus, it's brighter and sharper. It makes, because it's a touch screen, you have to go in to change your settings. The DJI is better because it's bigger. On the front screen, now they both have front screens about the same size, but the DJI front screen is a touch screen, which is really handy. Like if you have your camera mounted to your handlebars or something like that, and you don't want to flip it around, and you can use the front screen to change your settings, whereas the GoPro you can't. I was kind of surprised that GoPro didn't put a touch screen on the front on the 13. I thought they would have done that by now. Okay, reason number 4 I prefer the DJI is overall image quality. So let's break this down. If you just go out and shoot in broad daylight, actually, the truth is both cameras give you a pretty bright, punchy, contrasty, nice looking image. And if you didn't look any further and you didn't use the camera in any other situations, you might not notice a huge difference. However, when you start looking a little bit deeper, or when you start using the camera in different lighting conditions, is when you really notice there is a pretty massive difference between these two cameras. And I think it's because the DJI is using a much better imaging sensor plus better image processing software. So let's talk about dynamic range. Dynamic range is a fancy photography term. It just means that how much, when you have like a scene with dark shadows and like bright sunlight, can the camera capture that range of different light without blowing out the highlights or making the shadows look really too dark? The DJI has much superior dynamic range. When you have the changing lighting conditions, going through shadows, bright sunlight in the scenes, things like that, and I'm gonna put all this up on a screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. And you can see it even in the unprocessed out-of-camera image from both cameras, that the DJI will not only give you better definition in the shadows in a contrasty scene, but the DJI will preserve the highlights better, will not blow out the highlights, the sunny parts of the image nearly as much. And that is a really, really nice thing. Now moving on to low light image quality. So I've played with these cameras, experimented filming like around after sunset, like just before pitch dark, and then also in the pitch dark scenes as well. So again, the low light capability of the DJI, because of the better sensor and the better image software, is much superior. It has less noise, it has more definition, and it's able to pull up the shadows a lot more. The GoPro is almost useless in nighttime conditions because the sensor just doesn't have that capability. What the DJI also has, which I really find useful when I'm doing my motorcycle nighttime reviews, like when I'm evaluating the headlights and things like that on motorcycles that I test, the DJI has something called Super Night Mode, and I've started using it, and I'll put that here, but it really gives you an unbelievably good image and pulls up a lot of the dark areas, even riding in just pure darkness. It's quite fantastic. Now, of course, the Super Night Mode is not going to give you like the best, like the image quality that you would have in the daytime, because there's going to be some noise obviously when you're shooting an almost completely black scene, but it does a pretty incredible job of making a usable image in the nighttime, whereas the GoPro really doesn't have that capability. So in terms of overall image quality, the DJI has the GoPro beat in every single respect. All right, reason number 5 I prefer the DJI is going to be to do with the startup time. Now, the way I use my action cameras, I never leave them on. They're always turned off. And then what I do is when I need to capture a scene, I click the top button. It's called like quick start or quick record or whatever, everyone calls it something different. But that's how I use my cameras. So I've tested this a lot. I've always noticed the DJI was very fast, but I got spoiled by how good it was. And when I test it next to the GoPro 13 is about 2 seconds slower than the DJI. They both have a tiny lag, but the DJI is very fast when you hit that record button to turn the camera on and start recording. The GoPro, it takes about 2 seconds longer. And in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases that could be the difference in missing a shot or not. Plus it's just annoying. So I like the quick startup time on a DJI because that's how I use my cameras. Also, it turns off faster too. Not that that really matters, but the software in the DJI just seems to be much better. Okay, reason number 6 I like the DJI better is I have better audio options. So they both obviously have the ability to plug in and use external microphones. However, DJI, if you don't already know, has some of the best, most capable wireless microphones in the business, and they're used by many video content producers, including myself. I've got the Mic Minis, the Mic 2, I've got a lot of different DJI mics, and they're incredible. I use them with other DJI cameras as well, not just the Osmo 5. So the wireless connection that you get between different DJI mics and the Osmo 5 Pro is incredible because it allows you to connect multiple microphones if you want to like put one microphone in my backpack and capture the exhaust sound and put one in my helmet to capture my narration. I can mix them together in editing, get both those channels, or I can just use one microphone. It gives me the option to use those wireless mics that seamlessly connect every time without a problem. The GoPro doesn't really have those kind of wireless audio options nearly as much. So having access to the DJI ecosystem of microphones is a huge advantage for content creators like myself. All right, well, those are the 6 reasons that I prefer using the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro versus the GoPro Hero 13. You have a lot of choices when it comes to action cameras. I've tested all of them, including the other competitor out there, the Insta360. And you know what? The Osmo Action 5 Pro is a darn fine action camera and probably the best I've ever used. So I really love it. Thank you for DJI. Thanks to DJI for supporting the channel with products to allow me to capture all this filming and do all these reviews. And I hope this video overview was useful. You can use my links when you're shopping if you'd like to support the channel. If you have questions for me, put that down below. Thanks for watching. Ride safe. I'll see you out there.